Call the meeting of school committee to order for July 29th. Summertime, I don't know, Mr. Venezia, Mr. Connolly wearing ties, it's summer casual here. Mr. Bowers will not be with us tonight. I believe Ms. Arquetti will join us, but I'm not 100% sure. First item of business on the agenda is public input. I don't believe we have any public input tonight. Next, before we get to the agenda, I'd like the superintendent to introduce to the public our two newest employees in the district.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'd like to start with Dr. Flynn. Dr. Flynn, could you please come to the microphone? I'm very pleased to introduce to you tonight Dr. Valerie Artie Flynn is the Interim Director of Pupil Personnel Services for the North Reading Public Schools. Dr. Flynn began her duties on July 22nd, 2013. And she was appointed by the North Reading School Committee at a special meeting on Thursday, July 11th. So Dr. Flynn retired in 2010 from her position of Director of Special Education for the Needham Public Schools, where she served with distinction for 10 years. And during her 34 years in public education, Dr. Flynn was a teacher of students with disabilities, a director of special education, a professor of graduate education at two schools of higher ed, and the president of the Massachusetts Association for Directors of Special Education. And most recently, Dr. Flynn has been serving as an interim administrator of pupil services for the Waltham Public Schools. And prior to that, she served as an interim part-time director for the Fitchburg Public Schools. Dr. Flynn earned her Bachelor of Science in Early Childhood and Elementary Education from Adelphi University, her Master of Education in Special Education from Boston College, and her Doctorate of Education in Special Education from Boston College. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Valerie Artie Flynn to the North Reading School community.
Welcome. There's nothing against you. You might have seen Jerry and I look at each other over the Boston College. You'll understand that as you're here. You'll understand why we do that. But
we knew that when we voted for you.
Right,
so
right. We're both UMass
we're going to
grads,
give you the benefit of the doubt.
we probably have an inferiority complex or something.
No, you shouldn't.
Because we know the superintendent also has some affiliation with BC.
I do.
So.
Clearly somebody that couldn't get into UMass.
Right. But welcome. We're really happy to have someone of your caliber to fill in over the next year, given how important this position is in any school district. I think it's such an important area, and I think we in North Reading take great pride in our inclusion program, which I think has been extremely successful, not only in serving students' needs, but in terms of preserving that valuable rare resource known as cash. So we're glad to have someone who obviously has little experience in the area to fill the position for the next year.
Thank you.
Anything else the committee wants to?
Nope.
I think
Congratulations.
Dr.
Good luck.
Flynn would
Yeah.
like to say a few words.
May I address
Sure.
the committee just briefly?
Absolutely.
And thank you for those kind words, and thank you, Superintendent Willett. Everybody has a calling, and mine aligned with my profession, my job, and not everyone is paid for it, but everyone is called. I thank you, Superintendent Willis, for giving me this opportunity to serve again in my chosen profession, and all of you on the school committee to allow me to once again honor my calling. My years as a special education administrator and pupil personnel administration have been filled with challenges, excitement, and accomplishments. For me, there's been no greater reward than witnessing children with special needs accomplish goals that were not thought possible years ago, and to have the opportunity to join with them and their families in celebration of moving forward successfully. The late Senator Kennedy said, "The fundamental test of a society is how it treats not its most powerful, but its least powerful." And he continued to say, and that we must not measure human beings by what they cannot do, but by what they can do. From what I've read, from what I've already observed, from the conversations that I've had with staff already principals, superintendent, your business manager, the director of curriculum, and reading school committee minutes of yours. I have already understood that North Reading is a community that supports that belief, and the belief that we must take care of those who are the least powerful in order to help them move forward and gain some power. I thank all of you for your trust and in appointing me as your interim director. And it's with gratitude and respect that I assume this role for you. And I do so with the same dedication and commitment that you show as you all serve the families and the children in the North Reading community. So I'm honored to work on your behalf to help all the children in North Reading. So I thank you all very much.
Thank you.
We'll remember your name, too.
I have a quick question.
Absolutely.
Obviously, you have a lot of experience in this space, and other than the, the increasing number of children requiring services, what are some of the changes that you've seen in the area as you've kind of progressed down the road?
I started at the aforementioned university, which I will not mention.
You can mention it, that's all right.
The first year that they were anticipating the implementation of Chapter 766.
766,
Wow.
wow.
So I remember it well. And I mean, when you talk about not only were we able to move into schools with children with disability, but the fact that we're no longer in the basement.
Right.
I mean, I remember that. I'm old. I remember all of that.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is, and
That's true.
as we've moved forward, we were all happy. And I was one of them. I taught in a substantially separate classroom in the basement in the Boston Public Schools. But not only to see that children were allowed into schools, but it's the change in how children with disabilities have been accepted, and the movement that we've made to give children supports that they need across the spectrum of services, so that children can now receive services. Some still need very individualized services in a push-in model, and some children need very specialized services, and it can only be accomplished in a push-out model. But it's the fact that we can now look at children and really look at what their individual needs are and provide supports to them, so that we are looking at what's appropriate. And then also the changes that I've seen is the benefits of typical children, to have children with disabilities in their class as well, so that it's been a two-way street. And when you walk into a typical classroom, and you can't tell who's the child with a disability and who isn't. And I'll tell you, the children, in some regards, are quicker to respond and not see differences than we are as adults. So I think that's been the biggest piece in terms of it.
We see it. I like the way we do it here with the integrated preschool. So from day one, if the kids are in our integrated preschool, they're integrated with those kids with the challenges. And so from an early age, they're accepting of it. And then the second thing I find interesting is it's a complete 180 in that we've gone from pushing, when you started, pushing the kids away, keep them away from the quote regular learning kids.
Absolutely.
Because they'll just get in the way, to integrating them completely. So it's a complete change in how we do things, and we've embraced that here. I know you've seen that.
Absolutely. I've seen that. I've read it in IEPs that I've read, and it's the idea now that we presume for a child that their placement first is in a general ed program, and then we work from there in terms of what their needs are, whereas before it was a program outside of the general ed classroom, and then kids had to earn their right to go into general education classrooms.
Yeah.
So I think that's exactly, you've got it, you've nailed it, Mr. Webster.
Well, I think one other thing is, one of my concerns, and I think the board had a slightly less concern, was having someone in an interim position in what is such an important position, in a real sensitive position. But I was made to feel comfortable that you've already served that role in several districts, because it's never good when you can't find a full-time candidate, but you want to get the best candidate. We had an interim superintendent here for a year, and Dr. Keith Manville, and he was tremendous. He worked out great. And so seeing that you had done this before, especially in this position, which is probably has more sensitive relationships than probably any other administrative position in the district, really. So the fact that you've done that in an interim role in several districts kind of made me feel really comfortable that we'll be able to do this no sweat. So,
I'm glad.
any other questions or comments, Kathy?
If I may, I'd also like to take this opportunity to introduce someone to you that is sitting in the audience. And this is Mr. Stephen McManus. He is the new president of the Special Education Parent Advisory Council, and he played a key role in helping us identify our successful interim candidate for this position.
Great.
So I'd like to thank Stephen publicly, and,
Thank you.
and he will be coming back to a future school committee meeting to chat a little bit about the role of the CPAC and some of the goals that he has for the upcoming school year.
Excellent. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No?
All right.
Thank you.
You're free to go. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Should I have Michael go sit at that table?
No, you can.
No, I think we said
you
it.
can stay there.
Oh. No, sorry. Hello. Well, I feel like I've already been working with Michael for quite some time, but he's been spending so much time in the district even prior to his start date. But I'm very pleased to introduce formally to you this evening Mr. Michael Connolly. He was selected from a field of 35 candidates to become our permanent Director of Finance and Operations. Mr. Connolly was the Director of Finance and Operations for the Lincoln-Sudbury Regional School District, and prior to his position in Lincoln-Sudbury, he was the Business Administrator for the Wakefield Public Schools, the Assistant Business Manager for the Wellesley Public Schools, and the Director of Finance and Operations for the Excel Academy Charter School in East Boston. He earned his Bachelor of Science in Business Management from Babson College, and recently, congratulations, completed his Master of Education in School Administration at Cambridge College this past spring. Mr. Connolly lives in Reading with his family, and please join me in welcoming Mr. Connolly as our Director of Finance and Operations.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very
Finally.
much.
Was it a requirement that we replace a Reading resident with a Reading resident? Was that, I didn't see that on the.
It's quite nice how that worked out.
Yeah.
It was blended, I didn't know.
We did a nationwide survey,
Yeah.
narrowed it down to within.
We narrowed it down to the next
Live within
community.
5 minutes of us.
Right. Worked out well.
When it works, it works.
Thank you very much.
So you've been on board for about a month, right?
I've been on board. Step started July 1st, but I had some transitional days in June, and I'm definitely very excited about the opportunity. I've really enjoyed the last 3 to 4 weeks in the district, getting to know all the administrators and the program leaders and the support staff team. I've done a lot of transitional meetings. I've been up at Town Hall and met with the finance director up at Town Hall, and just really excited to be here, and I really appreciate the opportunity from Superintendent Willis and the school committee, and I'm certainly very much looking forward to hitting the ground running and working hard over the next several years. So I appreciate the opportunity.
You certainly,
Thank you.
well, yes, welcome, and you're certainly entering at a time as our school building project moves into kind of the next phase, getting closer to conclusion. I think we'll be
Yep.
seeing your involvement in that, and obviously we have some issues. We have your budget report. We have an issue that I'm going to bring up later when you give the budget report on the lunch program and discuss
Okay, sure.
what we might do there. So there's no shortage of tasks
Yep.
facing you in addition to, and you're already involved with building a new parking lot. I mean, we've got
Yep.
so much going on
There's a lot
already
going
here.
on,
So
and I really appreciate Carl Nelson's assistance in my transition. He was really helpful over the last several weeks. He's made himself available to me at any point in time I've had a question, and he certainly was very much involved in completing the year-end closeout and putting together the budget report that will be presented later on in this meeting. So he's been a great resource, and he's made it known to me that he'll continue to be available and as questions come up, and there certainly I think will be a great mentor relationship to me. So I very much appreciate Carl Nelson's support and everything he's done to me so far.
excellent.
Welcome aboard, Mike.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from Mike? All right. Okay. And next we'll go to continued business and an update on the school building project.
Yes, the Secondary School Building Committee meetings were held on July 9th and July 23rd. I was not present for the last meeting. Mr. Venezia, as the representative from the school committee, will be able to report on the progress of the building project at this point.
Last Tuesday's meeting, we took a lot of time. I think most of the time, Janine, you're going to fill in here for me, right? Dealing with the abutter issue again, it became apparent that the Board of Appeals wants the Secondary School Building Committee and the abutters, specific abutters attorneys to try to resolve the situation, but a lot of discussion led to a vote by the Secondary School Building Committee to reconsider or revisit the issue of mitigating any landscaping issues or other issues with the abutters until sometime before the end of the project. At that time, we'll have a much better idea of what we're looking at out there. We'll also have a better idea of what type of funding we have available. At this time, it's just too early, and even if we were to come up with any kind of a plan right now, we wouldn't be able to implement it until probably almost a year from now anyway.
Right.
So that specifically applies to all the abutters. I think that, Jeannie, and that's the way we left it, all the abutters. The two that have filed an appeal with the Zoning Board of Appeals have a continuance coming up in
August
15th.
August
Yeah.
15th. So they'll be back in front of the ZBA. I think we'll have representatives from the Secondary School Building Committee there as well. But the very, I think, unanimous position of the Secondary School Building Committee was to put this issue off until later when we can better deal with it. I'm not sure that was satisfactory to the people who were present there at the meeting, but we'll have to see what the ZBA does on August 15th. There was a proposal and some bantering about some monies being set aside, escrowed or earmarked for landscaping specific to those two properties, and we were absolutely positively opposed to that, and hopefully the ZBA is going to take a look at the pitfalls of doing something like that and not take any action at this time. Other than that, the project is moving along.
There's only one issue, the ledge, not a serious issue, but there is a ledge.
Yeah, well, the ledge issue is they've already blasted and cleared the ledge on the west side of the building, and that deals mostly with the access road going up to the new school. On the east side of the building, anybody that's been by there, and today it's even more dramatic, but they've literally scraped that area clean over there, and they are still taking out additional ledge, and there has been a little bit more ledge there than they anticipated for the wastewater treatment plant. And there's also the potential, I think we've had some discussions about, potential ledge being found when we go to do the demolition of the high school as well. But right now, it's under control. What else do you need?
Other than just their projected schedule and things of that nature, I know that by the 6th of August, they want the access road up to the highway paved, and I believe they're working on the parking lots by August 16th for the opening of school to be done.
Yeah, they did give us a very specific schedule for each of the buildings.
Yes.
And a timeline for each, for when they're going to be framed in, for when they're going to, the brick's going to be in, the roof's going to be on, and all those things. So from what we can see right now, it's a day-to-day thing, but we seem to be on schedule, and things are moving forward. I'm not sure if there's anything else.
I think just to expand a little bit on the abutter issue, it wasn't that the committee was saying, we're not going to put any money toward additional landscaping. It was the committee saying, we have no idea what it might cost, and we have no idea what it's going to look like until the back of the building is done. We have no idea what the berms are going to look, how the berms are going to look, what the parking lot's going to look like, what the back of the school's going to look like. So to put any money aside at this time doesn't seem to make sense.
Outback is going to be an ongoing construction site for at least another
Right.
year, and possibly more. So we couldn't do anything at this time anyway, so
Right.
we chose to wait.
Yeah, and I believe Mr. Delaney was supposed to pass that message along to the
Chairman of the Zoning Board of
The zoning
Appeals and the
board,
attorney
right.
for the abutters as well.
Right. So, the one other issue which wasn't discussed, but which we will have to review probably at our next meeting, unless, or we might have to even think of calling a special meeting just for this one item, is the issue regarding the softball, the baseball / softball / whatever it's supposed to be field. We initially recommended back some time ago that this be a baseball field, and that was taking the advice and the recommendations of the athletic director, the softball coach, the baseball coach, the Parks and Rec department. However, based on some of the information we have now in terms of the dimensions of the field, et cetera, I think more questions have to be asked in terms of the feasibility of that being a baseball field. And the hope is that we can schedule an athletic subcommittee meeting to discuss that within the next few weeks, and then bring it back to the committee so we can take another vote on whether we reaffirm our vote to recommend that be a baseball field, or whether we vote to recommend that the SSBC relook at that and consider making it a softball field instead of a baseball field.
Yeah, I would only suggest if we don't recommend a change that we don't have to do anything.
Correct.
We've already voted, and again, this is the whole issue is going through channels, from the athletic subcommittee to the school committee to the secondary school building committee. We've already done that once. The recommendation was to make that a baseball field. I think that we want to get some additional information, as the chairman said, and then if we're going to recommend a change, then I think we should vote on that. If we're not going to recommend a change, then I'm not sure we need to. But.
Yeah. So that wasn't discussed, but that's something we have to vote on at least no later than our next scheduled meeting on, I think it's August 20.
Well, like every.
26th.
Oh, it's
yeah.
the 26th, which is the night before the SSBC, so we actually could.
It is. The only problem is, again, the architect and the contractor have said that the sooner we get to them with a final decision on this, the better, because of design changes that may have to take place, but more importantly, for the materials that are ordered,
Right.
which are ordered well in advance of construction, so that we have an idea of what materials to order, what the cost is going to be. So, like everything else with the project, the sooner we make a decision, the better.
Okay. Any questions on the school project?
It looks wonderful.
It is. It's moving along quickly. Almost the entire classroom wing of the high school is almost completely. It's not
Gypsum boarded.
gypsum boarded in. I know the brickwork will be starting, I think, sometime in August on that, right?
I
Yeah.
want to say it's like mid to late August,
Yeah.
but just on the academic wing.
Yeah, I
Right.
think late August.
And then
probably.
if you look at the rest, it's moving along when you see the lights go in on the rest of the building, the lights that stay on all night long.
And
So-
just for those who drive by, the final color of the building's not going to be purple. That's just the color of the gypsum board. So.
Right.
Hugely disappointing, but okay.
Yeah, and they've also they've stabilized the slope, which is next to the high school building. There had been some issues with the heavy rain, and they figured out a way to stabilize that. They put some rock riprap down at the bottom. The road is basically there now. It just needs to be paved.
Yeah, we had the torrential downpour last week. and
Right.
that kind of overwhelmed the drainage system at the foot of the access road where it meets the parking lot to the high
Right.
school, resulting in some runoff. But they've been very responsive in trying to take care of that, and I think that should be solved. But that was a torrential downpour that we had, and
Yeah.
it was a little bit unusual. So,
But there's no major issues, and all the contractors are seem to be on site working. The crane's gone. The big steel work is done.
steel work is done.
And now that's moved to Wilmington, their project. So, thanks. Okay, 2013-14 school committee meeting dates.
Yes, the Board of Selectmen reviewed the draft school committee meeting schedule, and they approved the use of room 14 at the town hall for the school committee meetings during the 2013-14 school year. So a copy of the schedule of dates has been included in your packet.
I'm going to recommend that we don't do the December 23rd meeting. I don't know if anybody objects to
We
that.
want to move it
but-
to the 24th?
Yeah, the 25th, that was it. No, I'm going to recommend that we don't do that.
We'll make that one virtual, and we can all
Yes.
go to a tropical island.
Sure.
Awesome.
I don't know what the rest of the committee thinks, but that seems kind of too close to,
I think if we have
Christmas
important
to me.
business, school business, we should be here on the 23rd, but,
if there is something important, I think we can have a meeting,
all right.
but I don't think we need to have a meeting on that day unless you
Anytime I
think.
can spend with Jerry is value added.
That's
so-
true. He does bring a lot to our lives.
I did put tentative next to that
Right.
date, just in case.
Yeah.
So it's a placeholder more than anything else.
By the way, for the first 2 or 3 meetings at the town hall, call me, I'll probably be here, okay? Just call me
We'll
so
have to
I
find
Don't worry,
you.
that's
so I
gonna
can get
happen.
right over there.
We'll have to find you. The other question I have is, are we going to do the school visits, or, and you just have to work that into the calendar, or?
That was my question for you. It has appeared that you've enjoyed the school visits in the past, and so if that is your intent to continue that practice, we haven't set goals yet, but that has been one of your goals, then I will work with the administrative council to get those dates scheduled.
I'd ask the rest of the committee, I think.
I think it's a very good idea.
Yeah.
I'm
I think it is
very
as
much
well.
in favor of doing it.
Yeah.
Just leave the superintendent the latitude to fill those
Right.
in when,
Fill it
you
in.
know,
Much bigger capital letters to remind me that I have to go to them
Yes,
and go to the right
yes,
school.
so we
like
go to the right
last time.
school, the time, everything.
chances
right.
of us all getting to the right meeting place at the same
Sunday-
time
yeah.
is
It's totally
like 1 in 10.
Very unlikely.
1 in 10.
1 in 5.
So, could you pass this along to the folks at NORCAM?
Yes,
And let them know that some of these will change?
yes.
And then hopefully the plan is, next fall, the fall of 2014, we hope to be doing these from somewhere within the new high school, correct?
I would say the distance learning lab.
Right,
Is Cliff okay with these dates?
yeah, I think he's okay with these, yeah.
Mhm, yes.
And I know Cliff really likes the, visiting the schools, so.
Mhm.
So just work those in and then let us know.
I will bring it
I know
back.
the principals like to get a little bit of time, so
Mhm.
probably won't have one too early in the year, but,
Right.
okay. Next, new business, we have policy manual review and revision, first reading. The first one is a new policy which relates to athletic fees and co-op teams. And then the second one is a change in the responsible adult affidavit policy. So Kathy, I don't know if you want to.
Sure. On July 9th, Mr. Bowers and Mrs. Embriano, two members of the policy subcommittee, met to review a suggested new policy that you had just outlined, the athletic fees and co-op teams. This new policy was proposed by the athletic subcommittee to clarify the payment of years of fees by students who participate in cooperative teams hosted by other school districts. So we do not currently have any kind of a policy such as this in your policy manual. So, Mrs. Zambrano, do you want to read it for the first time?
Sure. This is the part we enjoy the most.
Yes, the reading, yes.
Reading out loud.
From the top or just
From the top.
Okay. Athletic fees and co-op teams. Athletic fees paid to North Reading High School students
By students.
by students who participate on cooperative teams hosted by other schools shall be handled in the following way. 1. If the fee charged by the schools hosting the cooperative team is less than what the student would have paid to North Reading High School, the co-op team fee will be subtracted from the NRHS fee, and the difference will be paid to the NRHS for the season. 2nd, if the fee charged by the school hosting the cooperative team is equal to or more than what the student would have paid to North Reading High School, the student will owe no money to NRHS for the season. This policy applies to the athletic fees charged by the hosting school district for North Reading students to participate.
Yeah, this had been an issue. The athletic director, depending on, we have, 3 co-op teams? We have wrestling, we have girls
Gymnastics,
hockey, and we have
hockey.
gymnastics, correct?
Yes.
And each charges a different fee. Some is less than the fee that they would have paid North Reading, some is more.
Substantially more.
And we need to have a policy in place that says, if you pay less, you'll pay the difference to North Reading. If you pay more, you won't pay anything to North Reading. We need to have this codified in order to answer questions in the future. Jerry?
Mr. Chairman, I just have one suggestion just for consideration. On number 2, after the last word season, I'd put a comma and say, but will be responsible for the payment of the entire fee to the hosting school. Just to be specific about that, okay?
Okay.
So that
Yeah.
they're not responsible to pay us, but they are
Right.
responsible for paying the entire fee to the whole school.
Right. Okay.
Rather than hosting, I think host school would be good.
Yeah, post school.
Just a point of question.
Yes.
Cooperative teams, is that defined elsewhere in our manual? I don't know that it is.
I don't know.
Just to clarify what it is for the,
Yeah.
I mean, I know what it is, but
That's actually, I don't know if it is, but we
I don't know
might
if it
want
is
to
either.
clarify what it
That's-
is
that's a
within the
good-
policy.
That's a good point.
before our
What a
second reading,
cooperative
just
team
check.
is.
I don't recall it in when we reviewed all the documents, which, shocker.
You could actually just put it in parentheses after number 1, which says a co-op team.
Athletics team sponsored by another school district, which allows North Reading schools to participate.
Right. Yeah.
It's a cool bus.
Right.
So in the second reading, if we could just adjust that language, that would be really great. Otherwise, I really like this. I'm glad this came up. I would not have thought of it.
Any other questions or comments? So at this,
I'll make a motion to, sorry, I'm
no, go ahead. I was
anticipating
going to
you.
say at this time we'll
Apologize.
accept a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the first reading of the policy JHAF athletic fees and co-op teams
As amended.
as amended.
Have a second, please.
Sec-
Motion by Karen, seconded by Janine. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 4-0. Thank you. Now, the next one is a change in the school admission residency responsible adult affidavit. So, Kathy or Jean, want to explain what the changes are here?
Sure. Adults who are not the parent or the legal guardian of a child seeking enrollment to the North Reading Public School District must complete this responsible adult affidavit. So what's being sent to you this evening are minor changes to the current form that include reordering some of the requested information as well as including a new detailed explanation as to the circumstance that's causing a child to change his or her residence. So I'd just like to walk you through the changes for each of the forms. I've included the old form on the top, and attached to it is the new form. So if we take a look at the new draft, I'll be real quick. Number 4 is the old number 7. So we reordered the old number 7 on page 1 to number 4. Number 5 is the new request for more information, the circumstances that are causing or cause the child to change his or her residence. Number 6 is the old 5, number 7 is the old 4, and number 8 is the old 6. And that constitutes all of the changes.
It's a lot.
Is that
I'm sorry.
legal for us to ask why?
Yes, it is.
It is.
Because we need
Safety of the
to,
child.
we need to know.
Determine residency.
Yes, determine residency. This is
Right,
all
but I mean,
part of the
the
residency.
why. I mean, you were looking for a reason why the child is living in North Reading, correct?
Yeah.
Well, you have a policy that talks very specifically about criteria that needs to be produced if there's any question as to the residency of the child, if parents move, if there's a divorce, where's the child living, where's the child sleeping. So this is the case of the parent is not the guardian of the child at the time that the child wants to attend school. So this is separate and distinct from, where are the parents and why are you going to be living with someone else?
Actually, this says is not the parent or legal guardian.
Right.
Right.
So I think this is designed to prevent kids from living with a grandparent, uncle, aunt, friend, or something in North Reading for the purpose of attending North Reading schools.
But I guess my question is, how do we stop that if this is something that it's not the guardian, it's not the parent, so the kid could be living with a grandparent and
And
attending
this is
North
to
Reading schools.
ascertain, I think this is to
Right?
ascertain that.
Right, and this also is notarized. So,
Okay.
it's not that somebody, when somebody commits to a reason that is legitimate, they're getting this notarized as it being true.
Okay.
Do we have a policy that defines what a responsible adult is in this context? I don't believe we do. Or is this just the only form?
We do have JBCA policy, and this E is the example of the
Right.
form
It
that's
defines
used.
all that
It does.
policy
Kathy, where does
defines.
this come from? Where does this come from?
This is coming from the high school. It's a request from the high school. That's where most of this takes place.
Yeah.
I don't see any issues with the changes. Does anybody else have any wording changes or?
No, the only, I just want to make sure that this is reviewed by council, that's all. I just.
Has this policy been in place, obviously, if they're
Yes.
using the
Yeah.
old form?
Yes,
Yeah.
we asked this question, it's just not been on
Oh, okay.
number 5.
All right.
It
just
is
hasn't been
part
on-
of the
okay, but it
process,
has been on the form, okay.
but now we want to document it.
Right.
Gotcha.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion for the first reading for the new school admission residency responsible adult affidavit policy JBCA-E.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Karen, second by Jerry. Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? 4-0. Okay, next, we have assistant varsity coach positions. I believe this is a request for soccer, correct, initially?
Boys and girls.
Boys and girls soccer.
This was coming from the
From the
athletic
athletic
subcommittee.
director. At the athletic subcommittee, we did discuss this, and I think Jerry and I, at that time, at least I did, expressed hesitancy to spending additional money on coaching, given the situation despite knowing the numbers in the school, in the programs. I think we really have to be careful with funding this year, so that's just my
I meant
feeling.
to bring the numbers. One of the reasons for this request is that this year we have very high numbers for both boys and girls soccer
It's over 50,
participation.
it's in the 50s for both.
Yeah, and there may be an issue of having to potentially make some cuts so the kids aren't able to participate. So I think there was a suggestion that if there's an assistant coach, they may better be able to deal with that. I don't know, Mel, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, and
you know.
and the other issue is, as with baseball and softball, when they're coaching, usually the JVs are playing at the same time, so they do not have an assistant coach on the sidelines.
Any of these sports, when the JVs and the varsity are playing at the same time, there's just literally one coach on the field to deal with 20 or 22 or 24 players, so.
I just think my feeling is, still going back and given that we weren't able to implement all of the NRPS 2016 plan in the current school year, I just don't, if we had, what would the cost be for each coach?
$4,000.
$4,000. If we had $8,000, I suggest putting it towards something in NRPS 2016.
Well, what's more important?
So, any other discussion, opinion on this?
No, my only question was it the 8,000 for each, or was it split? But
Four-
it was just-
4,000.
4,000 each, yeah. And we did do this first, just to be clear,
Baseball.
we did it for softball and baseball.
But this
Um,
obviously is a new fiscal year, we come out of this fiscal year's budget, we
Right.
have to find the $8,000 out of the budget that we've already
I
contemplated.
think that, again, in addition to the money, I think it's kind of it's late to make the decision, at least in my opinion, and this is something we should consider with the new budget for 2014, fiscal 2015. Karen?
I consider any additional expenditures should be for curriculum or things to support student achievement and or safety of our students. As in a non-normal year, I've never experienced like a normal year here budgetarily, but I mean, I think this is a really important point, and I would hate to see students be turned away, but for participating, and there isn't, I don't see any other solution. I actually wonder if Mr. Conley would have any suggestions about how we might be able to handle this.
Do you have
but-
8,000 laying around that?
I've been looking, trust me. I've been going through the budget, but it is a
tight.
difficult thing
Well,
to do at this time of year.
Yeah, I said, at this time of year, the
Yeah.
thing with the baseball and
Mhm.
softball was we were near the end of the fiscal year, so
Okay.
so we had a better look at what the budget looked like.
Right.
And again, I'm with Karen. If we're going to spend $8,000, I'd rather put it toward, be it a textbook or something, be it another position in the technology area that we haven't added. So I wouldn't support a motion on this tonight.
I would also just note that there are many administrators who have cut their budget substantially and welcome
Right.
an additional
At the schools.
$1,000, let
Right.
alone 8,000. So
The athletic revolving account is tight.
Yeah.
We're not carrying over a significant balance at all in
Yeah.
that
Right.
account.
all right.
Again, my position on this is that I don't want to see anybody turned away from playing, particularly young players, freshmen or sophomores. So, if we can just get the word down to the athletic director, the coaches, whatever they can do to keep everybody in some capacity. That's just a
And
suggestion.
I think we do
And-
still have a freshman, JV, and varsity coach. We still
Yeah,
have a coach at
yeah,
each of those
yeah.
levels. So.
But I agree. I don't agree with Karen that the $8,000 should be applied to. I mean, I don't know where else we're going to apply it, but I do agree that this is into the budget season, that we should take a look at this fresh for the next year fiscal
Yeah.
year's
I agree.
budget. So
Okay.
I agree.
So at this time, we won't make a motion, and Kathy, if you can let the athletic director know at this time, we're not going to move on those positions. Next, North Reading Middle School Club proposal.
Yes, included in your packet is a request by Principal Catherine O'Connell of the middle school She would like to pilot a new video production club for middle school students under the direction of middle school English language arts teacher Scott Petrie-Wasser. So you can see a copy of the proposal in your packet. The students would meet after school one time a week to write, act, film, edit, and produce multimedia programming using digital video, computer editing, web, and ultimately streaming technology. And this is in preparation of our new studio that we will have upon completion of the academic wing of the high school. And that studio will be used by middle school as well as high school. So Ms. O'Connell would really like to begin this pilot this coming school year.
So just some information. NORCAM is starting a program for students in grades 5 through 8. It was in the paper this Thursday, and we also discussed it Thursday night at the NORCAM Advisory Board meeting. And the program is for 5th through 8th graders to put together a student-run news program, news, current events, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems to me like there's a perfect tie-in here. The first meeting is going to be on August 22nd for that, and I'm going to actually attend. Agatha Morano was actually helping to organize it. I told her I'd attend and talk about my experience as a reporter 50 years ago when I was a newspaper reporter. But they're also looking for somebody from the area who is in the news, TV news business to come in. We've had a couple of people from, I think Jonathan Elias is one person. There's another guy, Sean Hennessy, who used to be on TV. Channel 4 went down to New York, and he's now teaching at BU. So it seems like a natural tie-in here. I don't know. I don't know if Kathy might want to contact. I don't know who at. Maybe Phil at NORCAM about this, or because they're doing. They look like they're going to be doing the same thing here.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to approve this club, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we need the two different programs. That's all.
I know that Scott did work with NORCAM last year because he did a similar after-school project with the students. So it would be a natural connection to make. But I do support a school-based club.
I do too.
So that these students are going to be using the equipment that we're putting into the new school.
Yeah, my hope would be that the school-based kids in the school-based club could get involved with the NORCAM, the
Right.
news program that they want to do. They want to do a monthly program.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to bring that up. And
Okay.
if you want to mention that to Kathy, I'll give you a copy
I
of the
will.
article.
Okay, that would be great.
I love this idea.
I do
think
too.
it's just such a great use of the new space that we'll have. These are great skills for the students to be exposed to early on. And in fact, that it's amazing how early that kids know how to do this. Like, it's crazy. You could be in 4th grade and know how to stream something. It's just nuts. But I think it's wonderful, and I hope we approve it.
Their ultimate goal is to produce a morning news show.
Right. Well, and the
For
thing
the
is,
school.
right, and the thing is that right now, we
Live.
really don't have any people to video or the athletic events, etc. And if we can start kids at this age, then when they get to high school, they'll be able to do those
Mhm.
athletic events, etc. Any other comments on this? All right, so I'll accept a motion for to approve the new, what is the name of the club? Video Production Club at the middle school
So moved.
Second.
as a 2-year pilot, I should add.
As amended.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Next, I had asked Kathy to put together enrollment trends. I'm not going to fight the trends anymore, even though I don't believe them. I just don't believe these numbers, that how low they get. Pardon me?
The batch on the packet.
Actually,
Oh, the batch on the parking.
That's what I
Oh,
thought.
I was hoping to skip. No.
This is good
Speaking
news.
of
We have the batch.
appropriateness, I
Yes,
love
we have the
this.
Batchelder School parking, additional parking, which has been desperately needed for at least a couple of years. So Kathy, Michael.
Yes, very briefly. This request for parking has increased since I began working in the district. This is for the Batchelder School. They've been struggling with not having enough parking for the last couple of years, and the principal has included this particular initiative in his school improvement plan. And so I'm very pleased to say that this spring, on June 17th, the Historic District Commission voted to approve a certificate of appropriateness to construct a 20-space parking area on the access road to the Batchelder School. So we're very excited about this. Carl played a key role in this process with the Historic Commission, as well as Sean Colleen. I attended the meetings, but they did all of the work. And Michael has some additional information on where we're at with this process. This is a point of information for you, and I thought it was something that you should know about and where the funding will come from.
Okay, great. So I did meet with Wayne Hadeker last week, and he gave me an update on the project and where it stands. It's really a project that involves sort of 3 steps. There's the initial curbing, paving, and then striping phase of the project, which will be the phase that will be completed first, obviously. And then there's also a fencing portion and a landscaping portion that would complete the project and stay within what the Historic Society certainly requires. The project did get started last week with the goal that certainly the curbing, paving, and striping piece will definitely be completed by the start of school. The goal is to certainly complete as much as they possibly can, but there is a possibility that the landscaping and the fencing will not be completely completed by the start of the school year. The estimated budget, or the most up-to-date budget at the moment for the full cost of the project for all 3 phases that I just discussed is $42,500. That is really at this point a worst case scenario. There is hope that the curbing, paving, and striping part of the project that is actually being completed by the DPW, and the fact that they are completing that major phase of the project is actually saving significant funds for the district. If that were to be contracted out, the original proposals that have come in were as high of about $45,000 for just that piece of the project, where the fact that the DPW is doing that phase is as low as about $30,500. So we certainly appreciate the cooperative effort with the DPW, and Wayne's worked very closely with them, and certainly Carl has as well to make that possible. So we certainly appreciate their support and cooperation on this initiative. Where the funding is going to come from this project, it's a two sources of funding. The first is there's about $13,000 remaining from the batch building project. So the first $13,000 will be spent on the remaining funds from the Batchelder building project. The remaining $29,000 will come from available funds in our facility rental revolving account. And there is a carry forward balance in that account that will be able to certainly support the $29,000 cost to complete this project. It's certainly much needed, and it will certainly be able to complete the project certainly by the start of school year. And we certainly appreciate the DPW support.
This is great.
Questions, comments?
Where exactly is it going? I'm trying to envision when you turn in from Ryers or from 62, you have
Yeah.
that long stretch, and then it turns left.
Right.
So where's the parking going?
So my understanding is it is going as soon as you take that left-hand turn and start to head into the Batchelder School parking lot. It's going to go in foul territory of where the baseball field is. So it's not.
It's the same.
Almost across
So
from where the school is then,
so
right?
Yeah,
Almost.
exactly.
Yes.
Kind of
Yeah.
cutting
Okay.
off that corner?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Not all the way down to 62,
Right, but
Right.
but
where you would take the left to head towards the high school
Head.
parking lot, that
Yes.
corner right there,
There's
Well,
going to be an indention, and there's going to be 20 spots.
I know this is necessary and approved, but I have some real issues with it. I don't like the location. I foresee people backing out in that busy road. I don't like the fact that we have to put granite curbing from Park Street all the way to the parking lot. to me, that's crazy. I don't understand that. And that's a large expense. Why do we have to put granite curbing along the entire road?
It was the request of the historic district, with the curbing, the fencing, and some, the landscaping.
The fencing and the landscaping I don't mind so much, but I don't see why we have to put a curb all the way to Park Street. That makes no sense to me. And my guess is, I don't know. I guess it's approved. I'm not crazy about the project. We need the parking. I'm very worried about that location. I don't know.
It was a concern when we discussed it in the past.
Right.
Is that on top of the septic system there too, by the way?
No, it's not.
It's
It's
before
not.
it's prior to.
It's before. It stops before that septic area.
Okay, so it's on the access road coming up before you take the turn. It's not right at the corner there.
Correct.
So if you took the two entrances to the where you go into the batch, and then where the exit is from the back parking lot there, it's basically adjacent. If you go right across the street, and that's where the 20 spaces are.
I'm sure it's been discussed, but why wouldn't they simply move the road over and extend the parking lot? That way you're not worried about backing into,
Oh, I see what
The
you mean.
road.
Yeah, I
you
don't.
know, kind of like move the road so it bends.
So move the road
not-
further away from the
Right,
batch.
and then extend the
And
parking
extend the
lot.
parking lot. We talked about several different options. This
Yes.
this has been the main number one option that was going to be pursued. The other option I think that Jerry had raised, which I thought was a good idea, was to just go from where the batch parking lot is now, and then just kind of come out further
This was the
into
old
the
one.
playground area.
But that was rejected.
Right.
That's because it would take up.
Green space.
Was rejected by the
So,
Historic District Commission.
Can I just make a suggestion?
mhm.
So this sort of design is very similar to something that was done in my hometown, Hanover, Massachusetts. And they have a very similar program, and it's the same issue with the backing in, but they've never had an issue. People adapted to it very quickly. So it may just be initially people are a little weirded by it, but I think it'll be fine.
My only concern is that you get high school kids driving out of there. That's all.
Well, that, it's in the same location near the high school, this particular location I'm talking about, and they were able to figure it out.
But high
The
school
high
kids
school
won't be
parking lot
parking
has
there.
the highest rate of accidents in the world.
They won't be parking there. Where are they going to be parking?
In the world.
Those are gonna be playing fields eventually.
Right, but they'll be
Okay.
parking there for the next year, right?
Only a
Yeah.
very
Only one
limited
more year.
number.
Okay.
Can I see that when you're done?
I object more to the requirement that we put granite curbing, which is extremely expensive. I would like to know how much, does the HTC have a budget to support that? Okay, so they're gonna be straight in, it's not angled or anything. And the other thing I didn't quite understand, it says there's going to be an entrance and an exit gate that closes, right?
Pass that over.
How would you have a gate when all the spaces are open to the, I don't
Well, there were
understand that.
renderings that were done. Here's a rendering of that. There was a landscape artist that worked on this.
Oh, gates, so the gate's going to the field.
That's correct, for snow.
The gate isn't to stop people from going in and
No,
out
no,
of
no,
the
no,
parking
no,
lot.
no.
That's what it sounded like. It says
No.
entrance and exit to the, okay. That looks very nice. But this does not show the curb extending all the way down to Park Street on this rendering. The curb stops right there at the parking space.
That's pretty
That's
nice
the
looking. yeah.
condition.
Yeah, it looks really nice.
Has anybody taken into consideration the baseball factor there too, with the cars back there?
That was discussed.
All right. Okay.
I mean, yeah, you don't see, honestly, Jerry, watching games, you don't
That's
see
nice.
many balls go that far over, but you do see some. I can,
Yeah, you do.
There, but there's not.
do we increase our liability policy as a result of that being under the flying baseballs? A few spaces there that you might have to worry about. But in general, it looks nice. Yeah, because the cost is, I remember Carl was talking in the $20,000 to $25,000 range. I'm assuming that the fencing, the additional the granite curb, I'm sure is very expensive, and the landscaping is adding fairly significant cost. Do you have it broken down, Michael?
I do, yeah. The curbing and paving, granite curbing, paving, striping piece is $30,500.
So that's okay.
The fence is $9,250,
Okay.
and then the landscaping is $2,500.
So that's about 12,000 for the landscaping and the fence.
It looks very nice. That's a nice rendering.
So the curbing, you don't have the costs for the materials, you just have the
I don't
cost
have
of the
that.
materials and the,
We don't have that breakdown.
I don't have that breakdown. I can certainly get that.
and because what's gonna happen, once the new school is built, right?
Mhm.
What is gonna happen to that road? Is it gonna end at the end of where the
No, remember
elderly
there's a
housing
small
is?
parking, there's still a small
Right.
parking lot near the new
Oh, right,
fields
that's
that will
right,
be
yeah, okay.
constructed.
And we don't
Right.
want to seal in the seniors that
No.
are living there either. No.
And the intent is for this parking to be for the staff.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. So there won't be a lot of coming and going then.
That's
That'll
correct.
minimize the,
That's correct.
so that's, see, you're already, what you're talking about, they figured a way to work it out. Our brilliant administration has already figured that out.
That's awesome.
Yes.
I would expect
And so
nothing
that would
less.
be, the staff will be arriving and leaving at different times that the students will be arriving and leaving.
It actually looks really nice.
Looks good. Looks good.
I mean, in terms of not having many options, I think,
Hmm.
I'm not crazy about the cost, but I think this is a good solution given the situation that we were in.
We did
Just
work
say
with
it's
the town
pretty.
engineer, the DPW director, and the policeman in charge of traffic, as well as the historic commission. So there's been lots of meetings with lots of people trying to come up with the best solution based on the tightness of the stamp of
And
the
20
site.
should be, I think they need a little more than 20, but 20 should help alleviate most of the
20 will
problems.
be 20 more than they have now.
Right, exactly.
It will help
Is
a
it
lot.
And-
the
and hopefully you
staff?
won't
Is
see
that
any
the,
more
batch?
Yeah.
Cars, we had
It's
a couple
not
of
just
cars
the
parked
staff.
along the road all the time.
Yeah.
And it was,
It's
at
tough.
some,
It's
in
tight.
some situations, they were parked almost all the way out to Park Street.
Yeah.
So it was a safety, really
What
safety
it,
issue.
you know, what it doesn't do is solve, obviously, when you have events there, but you can't solve that problem. You can't have parking.
No,
of,
but
you know.
when we have events there now, we'll have the extra 20
Yeah.
spaces. Plus, we'll have the spaces that are down there near the athletic fields that people can park in
Right.
for batch events if they're not being used.
I think
So-
it's good job.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now to the enrollment figures, which I still don't believe. So I had asked Kathy to, I guess because of my concern at seeing the numbers we're gonna be looking at for the next 2 or 3 years at both the high school and middle school, which are gonna be well above what the schools are being built for, and hoping that that was only gonna be a temporary situation. And based on numbers that we've gotten, it does look like that's gonna be a temporary situation. I still think NESDEC is badly underestimating the housing turnover, and the types of housing stock that's turning over. 10, 15 years ago, it was smaller starter homes being bought by couples with no children. Now they're buying 4 or 5 bedroom homes, and it's not a starter home anymore.
Mhm.
I don't think these numbers are way off, but I'm gonna guess that they're 100 to 200 off. If you look at 2021, I'm gonna bet they're gonna be a couple hundred higher.
I thought it was interesting that NESDEC did, on page 2
Yeah.
of the narrative,
Right.
talk exactly about what you've been
Yes,
saying.
they did. They did.
Which is, there is an uptick
Right.
in the pace of those, the turnover of single-family homes sold.
Right.
And they anticipate a similar accelerated rate for 2013.
Right.
So I think you're correct.
I think it might even be more this year although with interest rates going up, that may slow the boom. But I mean, seeing people we know and they put their house on the market and it's sold half an hour after the sign goes up. These numbers are reassuring. A couple of questions I had for you though, Kathy, on
Yes.
your figures. You're still showing that 12% drop off between grade 8 and grade 9, right?
That was the projection.
Right.
So I have some updated information to share with
That's
you.
what I was going to ask you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Based on taking a look at the figures at the high school on the 12th of July, we do not have a 12% differential from grade 8 to grade 9. We now have a 6% differential. So I'm going to adjust the high school numbers for you.
How much?
We had projected 182 students for grade 9. We currently have 194, exactly what we had this past school year. We projected 193 for grade 10. We now have 195. We projected 174 for grade 11, we still have 174. And for the high school in grade 12, we projected 194, we have 190. So instead of starting with 743 students, it's 753. So we are up by 10 students. I'd also like to tell you this, as you had anticipated, the kindergarten numbers are up. We had projected 148 students, we are sitting at 175.
Wow.
And that is not based on births, that is based on in migration.
I'm not saying anything.
But you were right.
Is there any circumstance where Mel was incorrect?
Yes, I've been incorrect many times in my life. However,
I'll verify that.
yeah. However, all you had to do was drive around town and see what's going. All you had to do is drive through my neighborhood and
very
see the homes.
scientific.
It is. There's no science, Karen. Karen, when it comes to me, there's never any science
I'm
involved.
always impressed with
Kindergarten.
your
I have
scientific
175
strategy.
Yes.
right now.
But you know what? If you look at this, I mean, clearly the overall trend moving forward is reduced enrollment.
It's going to be reduced.
Dramatically reduced enrollment. So even if you're right, I don't think the impact's going to be.
I disagree with dramatic,
No.
though. Look, in 11-12, we had 150 in grade K. Last year, we had 159. Now we're up to 175. That's a
Yeah.
whole, that's another section, that's another 2 sections of classes when you go to first grade.
But we were at an enrollment of almost 2,800, and look at the trend here. I mean, you're down to 2,200.
Right, but what I'm saying, Jerry, is I think that those numbers are,
Yeah, you may be right, but I mean, are they that off? That, you know,
what what NESDEC does is very good.
Mhm.
But I don't think they take into consideration the quality of the school district, and at least I didn't read that in there, maybe they do, and how it attracts people to the town. And they don't take into consideration that we're building a new high
Buildings.
school and a new middle school.
Mhm.
And I think all of those things, I'm not saying, Dre, that it's not gonna go
No,
down,
no,
but I'm
I-
saying, I'm looking more like 24 or
but
2,500.
I think if you're looking at, obviously, the high school enrollment in particular, there's a bubble here that, you know, we're hitting the
Yeah.
bubble, and then we're
Yeah.
gonna supposedly come back down again.
Right. We're
And
gonna
I think we're at the bubble, or at the upper part of the middle school enrollment, if you look at these numbers as well, and that's
Right.
gonna start to trend off a little bit too.
Right.
So, you know, it's interesting, as you've been saying for a while, Mr. Chairman, that with the opening of the new schools in 2014, 2015, that those numbers are kind of spiking a little bit, and then starting to come down.
I do have a meeting with the elementary principals Wednesday morning to take a look at kindergarten enrollment, because we may need to add a .5 kindergarten teacher to absorb some of these numbers. We're starting to see class sizes in the mid-20s, and that's not acceptable for kindergarten.
It is interesting, though, that the NESDEC numbers for next year's projected kindergarten, they have 173. So they're actually pretty close there. I mean, we'll see. You don't, I mean, because once again, they have kindergarten goes down, then it starts going up again.
That's a big difference, though, 148 to 175.
Right,
Well, they
That's the
projected
birth.
158
right. No.
for next year.
14, 15 is.
14, 15 is
Oh, right, 13,
173.
14, 158, yeah.
The births are driving that.
Right.
Right, so they were 10 more than our internal projection.
How long ago were these projections done?
It was just verified July 15th,
Okay.
2013.
All right.
No, but how long, and when did you do the 148? Was that done?
Oh, that's
via-
during the budget process.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't know if you could blame that on Dr. Trouton or not, because sometimes these things are done a few
Right, they go
years
way
in
back,
advance.
yeah.
Yeah, all
Do
right.
you know he's going to Alaska for like 10 days?
He
Is
is?
it
Wow.
Okay,
So,
but it is interesting to look at these.
that spike to 175 just gives me a concern. I don't know. We don't know pre-K numbers, right? We don't get,
Well, we are projecting approximately 60 for the little school, integrated preschool, and we know we have 5.5, and that's not a half a student, at the Hood School. That's a half-day student.
so that's 65.
So that's 65, but we haven't filled all 60 slots at the little school yet. We maintain some openings for students who will age into a needed program
But-
for special education.
So if you look at those two alone, we're talking about, if it is 65, we're talking about 42 additional students in pre-K and K that we didn't expect. So again, I think the trend is down. I don't think it's as drastically
Well,
down.
you were right, to look at the first 4 years in the new high school, look at the numbers there,
Right. And those are gonna go up, I believe, because,
of this
They went
percentage,
up.
not,
right,
leaving.
I can't believe, but what was the percent you said?
Six. We've
Only
never had that
6%.
many.
We've never
Time
had-
I've been
I
here,
can't-
never.
I went back and looked at about 20 years' worth of data.
Never seen that.
There's been some years we've had almost 20,
Yeah.
18, 17%.
Yeah.
Well, that, don't you recall that we
Average
had
was low.
changed that differential to 16% because over the last 5 years, we had seen an increase in the 20% of the students. But now it's down to 6% of
Wow.
the students leaving.
That's hard to believe.
And is there any change, do we know, in the 5th to 6th grade? Change with kids going off private school? That's mainly Austin
It's
Prep,
gone
I
up by
think.
3.
It has.
So we're still maintaining about, I think it's 6%. I think I have that on, 5%. Number 4, under assumptions on the local enrollment projection. We usually show a 5% decrease.
And that's
So-
almost all the kids that go to Austin Prep, I think, there are some other schools, but
But 3 more stayed than we had anticipated.
it's very interesting, especially that number from 8th grade to 9th grade. I mean, the school's being built for 740. We'll have no problem handling 750, 760, 780 on a
Yes.
short-term basis, but we are
Well,
going
if
to
you
go.
look at those numbers, as those numbers go up, the middle school's starting to go down as
Right.
well, so.
That's true.
We are going to have at least 4 years of the school being,
Fast.
both the middle school, well, the middle school I think will be okay by the time it opens. We'll still be over, but only for 1 year if those numbers stay true. But for the high school, we'll have 4 years of being well over 740. And if these numbers of kids leaving continue to go down, if we average 6, 7, 8%, then those numbers are going to be even bigger.
I'm very glad that the superintendent and the high school principal fought like hell with the
Oh my
MSBA to
God.
get us from 700 to 740, I think, Kathy.
Can you
wasn't it?
imagine?
Yeah.
Can you imagine if we built that for 700
Yeah.
kids? We'd be able to get there by 1920. Any questions on the enrollment? I think it's interesting to look at. I think it's hard to. There are just so many factors. I think NESDEC tries to take them all into account, but I think the in-migration is the biggest factor.
I agree.
Because if you look at building permits, they're down substantially. There's really not that much buildable space left
They're
in.
building single houses
In North Reading.
all over the place, just
Right.
singles, so. you know.
And what you're seeing is some older homes are being torn down and they're putting new homes on those lots, but there's not going to be any huge developments coming at this time.
And I'd just like to add that in his previous role, Mr. Connolly was in charge of enrollment projections for his school district. So he compared his methodology to our methodology and to NESDEC. And he fell between our methodology and NESDEC's.
Wow.
Closer to
That's
NESDEC.
Yeah, closer to NASDAQ.
So what, I mean, am I crazy for thinking this in-migration thing is going to be a
Wait,
big factor?
You're
Or,
asking.
oh, am I
if you're
crazy? Yes.
crazy. Not just-
No, I mean, it's a difficult thing to predict, and I think NASDAQ tries to take that into account probably more. I mean, my method is very formula driven, very, cohort survival method, looking at 3, 5-year, 10-year survival trends, assuming that all other factors will stay proportionally the same and what's happened in the past will continue to happen. And I think NASDAQ, although it's a difficult process, does try to look at it a little bit more in, those 5 main factors that they talked about. The building permits and real estate market and retention rates and dropout rates, and they try to calculate that, try to interpret all the variables that could come into play. But I think the big thing is that in migration and with the new buildings and the new high school, that typically you're going to see that for a period of time, and that's what needs to be watched and closely looked at over time. But my method was very formula driven over the 3, 5-year, 10-year trends. Within the first 5 years was within 1 or 2 students of NESDEC's projections. The outer years, mine actually dropped off even a little bit more, not as much as the method that was done by Superintendent Willis, but it was in between those. So it is looking at a few different methods, kind of coming up to that same trend over time, and it's going to.
There's always going to be, as Karen said, my scientific method is driving around town. There's always going to be.
Nothing wrong with
Driving around your own street.
Right. And I think NESDEC actually
Yeah.
says that they're, for 90% of their towns, they're within 1%
Yeah.
each year. But there's always going to be those outlier towns.
Yeah.
And you don't know if we're going to be an outlier town either way, down or up. So,
I mean,
So you and Karen can stick to the scientific formula stuff, and I'll provide the
Yeah.
anecdotal evidence, okay?
He said survival analysis. That makes
Yes, I
sense.
heard that. I know.
So, how close this
We're
was.
talking about survivors
That this was
Yeah.
obviously,
of our school
but not as
system.
much as Anna's.
But I think that was interesting. It's
Yeah.
good to see, and so if
Absolutely.
Michael's in the middle, I think that's where I'm pretty much falling is it kind of in the middle of the two different. So I think over time we're going to be able to we'll get the populations both in the high school and middle school, where we want them to be, or even a little bit lower, which would be nice. That way, Jerry, that everybody will fit in the auditorium.
I don't know.
Okay, any questions on the enrollment trends? Okay, next we have expanded background checks for school employees.
I'm so excited about this discussion.
Before we get into that, I know I did have a question. Do school committee members have to go through this process? No, because it seems to me we're around.
You sure? Because I'll resign right now.
I've already had a background check. This is
Kathy?
This is a point of information. And on January 10th, the governor signed an act relative to background checks that requires all public and private K-12 school employees to submit to state and national fingerprinting and to conduct a more in-depth criminal background check. So all newly hired school employees, including educators, maintenance staff, cafeteria workers, bus drivers, they're required to complete new national background checks for the 2013-2014 school year. But currently, there's no system in place to conduct this new requirement. So I included in your packet,
I am shocked.
Sorry, Kathy.
in your packet, I included a copy of the frequently asked questions regarding the expanded background checks law. But in anticipation of complying with this, it was important for the district to provide notification to our new employees regarding this requirement because there is a fee attached to this.
That we have to pay.
No.
No. We
That is
don't.
paid, it's a condition of employment, and it's
Only
paid
for
by the new hire.
You know what's interesting in this, Kathy? That fee, the way I'm reading it, goes to the cost of them conducting the background check. There's going to be an additional fee for getting the fingerprints taken.
Oh, that's right.
So, in my opinion, now the way they're going to do this, I mean, generally you would go to your local police department and they would take your fingerprints, but they're not going to do that with this. They're going to have certified vendors, private
Yes.
vendors
That you have to go to,
that
that
you
are
have to
chosen
go
by the
to,
state, correct?
that you have to go to have
Yeah.
your prints taken. I'm assuming there's got to be a fee for doing that. So there's not only going to be the $35 to $50 fee to have the check done, but I'm sure there's going to be a fee to have your fingerprints taken as well.
Mm.
So I'm just wondering if this is going to start running up towards the $75 to $100 cost. And new employees have to do this prior to the opening of school this year.
Are existing employees going to be,
Yes.
Yeah, not till 16,
If
17.
you take a look at the frequently asked questions, the first paragraph talks about all newly hired school employees, and then the second paragraph talks about all
Okay.
current K-12. We will need to comply with this regulation by, I believe, 16, 17.
You're going
I
to see a
think that's-
tremendous lag time on this. And the problem is, I mean, you hire somebody or you bring in a substitute teacher or somebody like that, there's going to be a lag time between the time they have their prints taken and submitted. You're relying on an outside government to do this. It's not even local government. It's not the police, because everyone has to go through a query check now. But
Right.
this is sending it out to the FBI bureau,
Yeah.
et cetera. It says here that we're the only state that doesn't currently do it, which I find hard to believe.
Mm.
But the bottom line is, it's going to take some time and effort to implement this.
I don't understand how you can force someone to pay $75 to $100 so they can get a
Well, I'm
job.
throwing that out only because they don't
No, but
talk
even if
about
it's
the cost
50
of taking the prints.
Even if it's
which
$50,
there's
I
going
don't
to be a
understand it.
cost.
I don't understand it. And the
It's
Corey,
Massachusetts. We live here. We choose to live here, and insanity continues.
the Corey program has been a fiasco, and they've had so many issues with that.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm not privy to how they do it, but Corey's been in place for a long time, I think, and we've pretty much covered. Are they doing Corey checks on cafeteria workers and bus
Yes.
drivers now? So that we're doing all that.
But the
So-
point on
And
Corey is,
volunteers.
Yeah.
the point on Corey is,
volunteers aren't required to have this done. By
No.
the way. They're not
Only,
required to
no,
have this
only
done.
oh, so we're
employees.
okay, so we're volunteers, right?
Yeah.
But Corey Yeah, the thing about the quarry program is if you're quarried as a cafeteria worker, right, and you're
Yeah.
fine, and then you go and coach a baseball team, you have to get quarried again.
Well, you shouldn't,
And then if
because
you go and coach a soccer team, you have to get
It doesn't
quarried
matter,
again.
the quarry doesn't change, it's the same.
I know,
racket that's
but
coming
that's the
forward.
point, and it's
Yeah, I mean,
it's just been just having been involved in a lot of sports leagues. It's crazy.
but anyway, good luck with this, because,
Right. So we're supposed to start this year, but there's no program in place to actually implement it.
Right, so what we've done is we've just sent out information and had the new employee sign the information saying that they understand and acknowledge that this is a condition of employment,
Mhm.
and it's required now by the state, but we're still in a holding pattern.
Okay.
So teachers who've been here for 20 years, who've been in contact with students that long, have to do this?
Yes, over the next 3 years.
Super
Isn't
awesome.
that, I know.
well, they've already done the quarry check.
Right,
All
but-
this is expanding the scope of
I
the
know,
check.
and they
Right,
don't
but
even have a
nationwide.
process yet.
So will the state let us know when they're ready to get this, and then we go, okay, everyone, go get your fingerprints done?
Keep checking the executive office of public safety, EOPPS, will be the managers of this new process. But we periodically receive information from the Department of Ed to keep us updated as to the status. But it's no status right now.
Okay.
Are there any contractual issues related to this? I mean, is
That's a
this
good
something
question.
that they could ask us and say?
I would think state law supersedes that,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. Yeah, that's a good
Mm.
question. though. That's going to be something that I'm sure Kathy will be asked.
I'm sure.
But state law does supersede.
And I would think at the next contract negotiation, something will come up about the cost.
Yeah,
Right.
agreed.
That's kind of legitimate too.
Super fun.
Okay. Next, bills and payroll. We don't have any. We're all set on that. Minutes. We don't have any. Correct.
No.
Budget update. Michael.
Great. All right, so in your packet, this evening was the final fiscal 2013 budget report of the year. And again, I greatly appreciate Carl Nelson's assistance in closing out the fiscal year. It was a smooth closeout. Don't think there was any real surprises. It did go smoothly. As we did anticipate, there was some surpluses in the salary line items, mostly due to some additional attrition and turnover beyond what was anticipated during the budget season. And certainly that allowed us to prepay some special education tuitions as we closed out the year, as we had planned and forecasted to be able to do so when we built the fiscal 14 budget. So that was able to take place. We were able to exceed the budgeted amount of $100,000 of prepayments in fiscal 14 as an offset. So that will provide some additional level of flexibility that we'll certainly need there, and as we look at as we approach fiscal 14. Really, as you go through, there are various other surpluses and deficits. I think everything else is certainly in order of what was discussed throughout the year. We did certainly, you're well aware of the overages that occurred in special education this year with the tuitions and medical therapeutic lines. But as you know, the district did prepare for those well before the end of the fiscal year to absorb those costs and those deficits.
Michael, a question on the tuition line
Sure.
for special ed. We have $1,905,900. Does that include some of the money that's prepaid for next year, or is that all 2000 FY13?
That amount, the expended amount as well as the committed, and you're looking at the final deficit balance, that does include all of the prepayments.
Okay.
So that the reason why it's sort of inflated there is
Okay.
because of the prepayments that were made to close
Right.
out the fiscal year.
Good. Okay.
And then, certainly we've discussed, I know the committee has discussed, and Carl has certainly updated me on the food service program and, the various, certainly, profitability issues this year through the new nutritional regulations that we instituted at the start of last school year. And certainly that led to a need to supplement the program by an additional $45,000 in fiscal 13. So that's certainly reflected in these numbers. And as has been discussed in previous meetings, that is a program that will certainly be reviewed and analyzed this year and we'll certainly do a thorough job to stay on, certainly closely watch and monitor, the monthly sales and expenses that certainly take place in the food service program this year. And I think it's a very good year to analyze all of the district's options for the food service program going forward. The current contract with Chartwell's will need to be bid this school year, so their contract is coming to an end. The district will also be involved in labor negotiations with the food service union. So it's certainly a good year to take a look at it and to see what options are available, and it will certainly need to be closely monitored this year. And I'll be working with Anna and Chris Callanan, the regional manager, to put together a budget and benchmarks for what it will take to run a self-sufficient, program, and then we'll monitor that on a monthly basis as we close out to see where we are at with that benchmark of what a self-op program will take. So that's certainly conversations I've already had with Anna and Chris, and I think we'll certainly closely monitor it this current fiscal year, and we'll certainly thoroughly review all of our options.
So that 45,000, what were we, do you know the amount we had in the budget this past year? So that 45 is added on top of that, because we already had a supplement in the budget, right, Jerry?
Yes.
We did. So if you look at the first page, behind the memo, the expense breakdown,
Right.
you're looking at the FY13 budget amount there is about
Okay, so food services,
72,500.
okay.
So we exceeded that by just over 45,000.
So that means that we had to kick in 118,000 to make that program solvent, right? This past year. I mean, if we didn't spend the 118,000, then that we would have had a deficit of 118,000, right? In terms of
That's true. But we are carrying over a balance, not a significant balance, but there is a balance in the revolving account.
right.
That we are carrying over to help start out the year and order the supplies and pay the first
Okay.
payroll and so forth. So it wouldn't have been completely $118,000 in the red, but there is a small balance.
So I'm gonna give you a 3-minute soliloquy here. I'll try to keep it to 3 minutes.
Tom, hold on, I want to time this.
No, I don't think it's possible to run a lunch program and have it be 100% covered by the kids coming in and buying lunch and snacks.
Wait,
I-
I didn't record that.
I did cursory research and found some interesting things. Saugus has a $40K deficit. They were guaranteed a $53,000 surplus by Aramark. But here's the interesting thing. In the Saugus contract with Aramark guarantees any deficit. They cover the deficit.
Yeah, really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they're selling beer and hot dogs at Fenway Park.
Right, but I'm just saying, and
They
maybe
can
the
afford
costs
to
are
do it.
exorbitant, but
Yeah, that is an option.
Martha's Vineyard, which is a Chartwell's district, had a $61,000 deficit. Daily revenue's down 14%. Bland nutrition rule. They blamed the nutrition rules, which we have. Pittsfield has a $120,000 deficit. 60,000 of that was for new equipment, so 60,000 was for fewer lunches sold, number of meals served fallen, revenue from snacks down. Now, the hope is that the federal government has actually changed the laws, or it's the state, related to the amount of protein that can be sold in each meal, and they're hoping that will help bring meal sales back because they'll be adding more protein. Just one other, the Berkeley Somerset School District had a $75,000 deficit. That includes a $10K buyout of a food service manager, whose job was they. So you have Aramark, you have Chartwell's, you have Pittsfield and Somerset Berkeley, which were internal programs. I'm sure there's a lot more stories out there. So I guess my problem is we should be being subsidized more by the state and federal government, which forces us to offer these lunch programs. Because if we weren't forced to offer them based on the participation, which is around 30%, I believe, maybe a little more,
30%.
I would say, why are we offering a lunch program when 70% of our students?
We're required to.
Right. That's my point. We're required to, and we're required to spend $120,000 to subsidize it. So I don't know that Aramark contract with Saugus. I don't know if you know anything about that. That's pretty interesting.
I mean, I've actually, in my prior positions, worked with the three major players, Aramark, Whitson's, and Chartwell's, and I have seen more aggressive financial guarantees in a contract, up in the $40,000 to $50,000 range to financially protect the district.
Right.
And that is certainly an opportunity this year, given that we'll be issuing a new bid specifications to sort of beef that up and amp that up through that process as well.
Doesn't seem their profit margin's that great. It's
No.
amazing they were able to do that. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me though that this whole, they must make money in other parts of their business that aren't involved with
Aramark,
education.
I think, is the
Right,
concession
Aramark
here
is
for
definitely,
Fenway Park, I'm
yeah.
pretty sure. So,
Aramark is concessions for a lot of sports,
Yeah, they do.
professional sports teams in
So-
college. But it just, I'm sure you've done research too, it looks like it's almost impossible to run a program and keep it,
Yep.
even break even.
And it is not an uncommon problem. It's not a North Reading issue. It's certainly every district, certainly this year, has seen a significant drop in lunch sales and in their program's profitability. And I know there was certainly surveys that have gone across the business manager, email, and certainly there's been a significant decline across each district. So every district is facing it. It's a problem that certainly we're across the state is trying to wrestle with and trying to address.
And in reviewing it this year, I'm assuming you'll also look at would it make sense to bring it back in-house?
Yep.
I don't know if that would be the case or not, but there are other districts in the area. I know Danvers, has an in-house
Right.
program, and at Lincoln Sudbury, what did they have?
So Lincoln Sudbury had a completely management contract with Aramark. So it was the employees were also the employees of Aramark. So it was a completely privatized model. When I was in Wakefield, we had the similar model as North Reading, and while I was there, we actually self-opted for the first time in the district in 10 years. So I've been involved in that process as well, and what everything that's entailed in moving from a management company to a self-op program. So I do have experience in looking at this and analyzing the programs. I will say every district is unique, and you can't sort of take one experience and apply it to each district. You have to look at what's going on and what the situation is at each district, because you'll see a lot of districts do kind of flip-flop out there between self-op and management companies, and I've seen both models be very successful, and I've seen changes go well, and changes also continue with the same type of challenges and issues. So it does involve a lot of research, a lot of analysis, and it's difficult to apply one district situation and bring it over to each district. So you have to kind of look at what's going on and really do a lot of analysis and research. But I think it's important to look at all the options and to put it out there and to do the research and to do the analysis of what's available and what are the pros and cons, and from a financial standpoint. And ultimately, I always think you kind of approach the decision through kind of four main questions. And the first is what's going to deliver the best quality nutritional value program to the students. Should be first and foremost. Two, what's most likely going to lead to increased participation, increased involvement, increased excitability within the program. What's going to provide the best management and oversight of the program, what program, and then really from a profitability has to be part of it as well. What's going to lend to the best ability for the program to be self-supportive, and that should be the ultimate goal. So you look at in those kind of four main areas in terms of quality, of leadership and management, of profitability, and then kind of overall culture and excitability of the program. So that's kind of the approach I've always taken in when you do an analysis of a food service program. And I think it's a good opportunity given everything that's going on within the state, and the fact that it is a year that we'll be going out to bid and negotiating to take a look at these options and to report back.
One thing, and you may be aware of this company, and if not, I believe I have the information at home. This company started by a woman named Emily Green, who was a high-tech executive. I think she'd been at the Yankee Group. And it's kind of a high-tech approach to delivering lunches to the schools. Not the airline food, as we discussed, I think, at our last meeting when Carl was still here. We kind of bring in kind of lunches where it's really inexpensive and the kids look at them and they're never going to eat them, but it's kind of a high quality, high tech. I'll send you the information.
Yeah,
Is it
sure.
box
have-
lunch
And
program?
then
Yeah, it's kind of a box, but it's actually beyond that, and it's
You don't have to convince me, 'cause I'll listen to the evidence when it comes in.
yes, you will. I just look at the anecdotal evidence myself. I'm big on anecdotes. Thanks, Michael.
great, thank you. Any other
Hey,
questions?
report.
Nope. Any other questions on the budget?
Yep.
Great, thanks. Okay, next, staffing, nothing to report.
None at this time?
Bids and donations,
None at this time.
subcommittee reports, Cliff isn't here. But I think we already had the subcommittee, the policy report.
Mm-hmm.
Don't we have a finance planning team on August 15th, or was that canceled?
No, we do have one. I think it's the 14th, isn't it?
Mm,
It's not on here, is it?
No.
Okay, August 14th, 8:15 a.m.
Okay. All right. And then, as we mentioned earlier, we're going to try to get an athletic subcommittee meeting scheduled the next.
Mr. Chairman, could I suggest that since we have a meeting scheduled for goals on August 6th, that we place the field issue on the agenda for August 6th, dedicate 30 minutes to it prior to, August 7th?
We may be
Seventh.
changing that date
There's a request to change the
Oh.
date.
to the 12th or the.
Well, then put it on for that meeting.
The
Yeah.
12th, the 19th, the 20th, or the 21st.
Those are the only dates, huh?
The 12th?
The 12th, Cliff is not here, but in talking about scheduling meetings, he's hoping not to have any additional meetings on a Monday or a Friday. He'd hope to have meetings on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or a Thursday because he's away.
Is the 12th a Monday?
The 12th and the 19th are Mondays.
Oh.
The 20th is a Tuesday, the 21st is a Wednesday.
I guess the only question I have is, what's your concern if our meeting's on the next meeting's on the 25th?
My only
right?
concern, Mel, is that I've met with the architect and the contractor, and they suggested that the sooner we can get this information to them, the better. I don't know how that's going to translate into cost or time or whatever, but they asked me specifically how long will it take for you to get to this point. If we have to wait till the 26th, we'll wait till the 26th.
So Cliff doesn't want to do meetings on Monday and Friday in
Yeah.
August. Well, we're not going to meet Fridays anyway, but.
Right, but if we have an athletic subcommittee meeting, we try to get one of those scheduled, maybe for next week. Can you meet? I don't know, during the day? Does it have, well, no, you can't, that's right.
Depends on the day. I am taking 2 weeks off in August, so it depends on what.
I think we have to re-stress that school department business comes first.
What did you tell Mr. Bowers?
Ahead of-
This Monday,
There's
Friday
ice in
business.
this cup.
Huh?
Oh, I would like some of that. So the 12th is a Monday, right? And the 19th is a Monday, because the 12th would be ideal.
Is there?
For the goal-setting meeting?
Yeah. But if Cliff can't do it,
Well, he's got a meeting the next night, so maybe he'll come home early.
13th?
Yeah, so.
yeah, he's got SSBC on the 13th.
What time does that start? 7?
No,
It's at 5:30.
Oh,
we have a meeting. So, do you want me to try to schedule it for the 12th?
Can you ask him if he can do it the 12th?
Who?
Cliff. She's going to ask Cliff.
I will ask Cliff if he
Yeah.
can do it the
You said you could
12th.
do the 12th, didn't you?
yeah, I can do the 12th.
Okay.
We had goal setting at
6:30?
6.
Oh, 6? Okay.
Is 6
Why
still
don't you
going
see
to
if you
work,
can do
Karen?
that?
You know, I can do it.
All right.
Okay.
12th, 6 p.m. That way I can do the stuff that I was supposed to do that I never got around to doing for the goal setting meeting. Because I was out looking at anecdotal evidence.
So we'll try for
Observational
August
science.
12th.
Probably
At
scientific,
6.
but Rest for no one.
And if we do that, we'll also discuss the field
Put
that
on the
night.
agenda for that.
Great. So we'll put that on the agenda. Okay.
So we can just earmark some limited amount of time.
Yep. Correspondence, administrative report, I guess.
Administrative
Sorry.
report, please.
Go ahead.
2 things. Little school, surplus property. I've received my first request from a principal to declare district property as surplus, so I asked Michael Connolly to take a look at the policy that's in place regarding declaring property as surplus, and I've asked him to include it in your packet and just review it briefly with you now.
Great. So there is a state regulation and a procedure for declaring, property surplus, and the policy it's in the packet is policy DO-R, and it talks about when there is surplus equipment that should meet the following criteria. And if it meets these criteria, the superintendent can certainly move forward and declare it surplus, and then follow the appropriate regulations to properly dispose of the equipment. So essentially, the regulation that guides this, the state regulation, is Chapter 30B. And when this request kind of came forward from the little school, we did certainly feel that the pianos and the amount of repair and reconditioning costs that it would take to get them up to speed so they would be usable certainly met one of the 5 criteria that's outlined in this policy. Certainly the cost of to repair them would certainly be close to more than the 50% of the cost to replace them. And there's certainly it's almost an unusable condition, and certainly in need of significant cost to repair. So we felt that this matched the regulations in the policy, and we'd like to, sort of for informational purposes, make you aware of it, and we really would like to move forward, declare the piano surplus, and move forward with the regulations and the proper procedures to remove the equipment and move forward. So take any questions on this process.
The only thing I see is our policy states that a market value of less than $500, and I see one of these pianos has a market value of $800.
Yep, that was the estimate. I think what Chris Molly did was she had a piano, certainly a technician, come out and analyze the cost of the equipment. Certainly that was his estimated market value. Now, that's certainly not the value we feel like we would certainly,
Okay.
get
Because I have no
from each
problem
piano.
surplusing it. I'm just making sure we fall within
Yep.
the.
The state
Policy.
regulation does say, anything to follow Chapter 30B for anything under $5,000
Okay.
in market value. So
All right.
it may be an amount we want to revisit or
Okay.
look
I
at.
might wanna revisit that
Or is that a
policy.
typo?
That could be a typo, yeah. We might want to revisit that policy,
Could be.
because 500 seems
500,
kind of.
5,000,
Yeah.
kinda
I
low.
know, if the state law says
Yeah,
5,000,
then we
it
should
makes
say
me think that
5,000.
probably should be 5,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did notice that as well when I looked at it.
Question, are these both, so one was built in 1905 and the other was built in the 1930s. So they're antiques.
Mm.
Yeah.
Antiques Roadshow. Maybe that's the way we should go with this.
I have an antique piano that was built around the same time period as the Miller piano. It's great.
1905 piano.
Mm.
But sometimes on that show, you get big money for
I know.
these things.
Well, I would just, the disposal piece of this, I would just prefer to donate or give them away, as our policy states, to people who would actually appreciate an antique piano.
Yeah.
Check with the HDC.
Is that how?
Check with the Historic District Commission. See
Yeah,
if
we'll
Good
go
idea.
through.
Yeah.
The first process is offering it to other town departments and school districts, and kind of move through the process.
This might be something that the rec department
Right.
would want. Parks
So
and Rec,
that would be the first people we reach out to,
ultimately.
and other government entities if no other town department is in use of them. But
Okay.
that's it very well could be.
Somebody takes.
Great, we don't need to take a vote on it. Catherine?
I just wanted to bring this question forward to you. In the past, was this discussed at a school committee meeting, or
I don't
was it
remember
acted
ever-
upon?
I don't remember ever seeing
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
this.
I don't know.
Great, no.
Okay, the second item, in your packet, you can see that there's a memo from our town administrator, Greg Valiakonis, that identifies August 19th as the deadline for submitting all warrant articles for the October town meeting. And so our next meeting isn't scheduled until the 26th. So I wanted to bring this forward to you. Now that the Capital Improvement Planning Committee has a process for approval, I believe that capital improvement will no longer be allowed on the October warrant unless it's an emergency. So at this point in time, I do not have any recommendations for a warrant article, but I wanted to bring it forward to you before I responded to our town administrator regarding the October town meeting.
Yeah, they're not going to, the plan is to not address financial items unless it's an emergency nature, so.
We do have a finance planning team meeting on the 14th, and
Right.
the chair would like to bring it up at that time to ensure that there are no capital improvement projects being moved forward. I know we had 4 that out of the 5 that were not funded last June, so maybe we could have a discussion with the finance planning team if any of those that weren't funded are going to move forward.
Okay.
And at that time, would the committee then entertain moving any of those items forward? That didn't
October?
get funded? Right, for October.
Unless they're an emergency, I don't.
They're not.
No, none of them are
They're not an
emergency.
emergency.
Just sends around.
Yes, my understanding that they're not going to consider those items anymore, so
Okay.
I would say no.
Okay, thank you.
Along those lines, I got an email from Don Kelleher notifying me that we would need to appoint 2 members to the Capital Improvement Planning Committee. They will not be meeting probably until September, so we can appoint them at the next meeting. And Michael will be one of them, but you have to be officially appointed and sworn
Okay.
in. And then we'll also appoint a member from the committee, so everybody can think about that. That's the committee that needs to discuss capital items and approve them. So that's it. You don't have any correspondence, Kathy?
I do not.
Anything else? Future business? Our next meeting is 25th of August.
Yes.
Oh, and 26th, 25th, 26th.
The 26th?
And we'll also be meeting either on the 12th or another night for our goal setting
Correct.
meeting. But you're going to see if Cliff can make it for the 12th.
Correct.
Anybody have anything else? I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Good night. 8:46. Not bad.